in Rockefeller Center. Here is Jane Pauley.
Good evening. Is there anything more important than your health? How about your faith? And what if you had to choose? For the young woman you're about to meet, that was a life and death dilemma. Just a teenager, she was desperately ill. There was a medical treatment that could save her life, but it threatened the thing she valued more than life, her religious faith. Chief Science Correspondent Robert Bazell has our story tonight.
Our purpose is not to kill ourselves. We're not here to be martyrs. We want to live just like anyone else. We enjoy life on this earth.
18-year-old Stacy Singletary may not want to be a martyr, but she is about to make an extraordinary sacrifice few people might understand. A choice between her religious beliefs and a medical procedure she desperately needs. A massive tumor is growing in Stacy's brain. The surgery to remove it would be perilous for anyone, but for Stacy it would be especially life-threatening. Stacy, her father Stanley, and her mother Cassandra are Jehovah's Witnesses.
We depend on what Jehovah says. We do what Jehovah says, no matter what.
Jehovah's Witnesses are a Christian church of 5 million worldwide. While they accept most other forms of medical care, they believe that Jehovah, God, commands that blood transfusions are wrong, even if they can save lives. Stacy is so debilitated she can barely talk, but there is no question her faith comes first.
And you never had a moment's doubt about the decision about the transfusion?
Never have.
And you understand all the risks of not taking a transfusion?
I've been told the risk many times before, over and over again.
It's hard to imagine now, but not so long ago.
Okay, give me a little bit of that old soft shoe.
Stacy was this happy, mild-mannered teenager, a star student in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Around the corner, I think. Yeah, there we go.
But Stacy has spent the last 20 months trying to stay alive and going from doctor to doctor. Each one said that if she refuses to accept blood transfusions, she could die. In surgery, she might lose so much blood that only a transfusion could save her. Without the surgery, the tumor would kill her.
Her chance of significant problems, namely dying, was high.
One of Stacy's first doctors was neurosurgeon Stephen Bailey.
I was angry at their religion, at their church. And I won't hesitate to tell you or anyone else that, because I believe it's wrong.
Dr. Bailey briefly considered pursuing a court order to have Stacy forcibly transfused. But since Stacy was then almost 18, almost a legal adult, who had the right to make her own decisions, he decided against it.
First, it would have destroyed Stacy as a human. Second, I don't think I could have won.
But with Stacy refusing blood transfusions, Dr. Bailey became the first of several doctors who'd refused to operate.
I did not want to turn them away, but I also did not want to face the other possible consequences. That is, of seeing a girl I'd grown to really like and interact well with die before my eyes.
According to a book by a former Jehovah's Witness, there are dozens of recent cases where children and adults have died after refusing transfusions, including cases far less risky than Stacy's. But several U.S. Supreme Court decisions protect a person's right to reject medical treatment.
Do you think that your faith and Stacy's faith is being tested?
Sure. All along it's been, well, do we do what is correct, or do we compromise somehow and maybe, benefit her medically?
We don't want our children to die as people think. Oh, you're crazy. You won't let them have a blood transfusion. That'll make everything okay. But we want our children to live because we love them just like any normal parent.
As the family was turned away by doctor after doctor, there was more bad news. The tumor in her brain was actually depleting blood from her body. Her blood count, the measure of her blood's ability to carry oxygen, had fallen, far below a normal level of 14 to about 4, a level so low it's widely considered incompatible with life, fatal. And Stacy, somehow still surviving, was scared.
And she told me at that point, she says, you know, I'm kind of shaken now.
It was a turning point for the family. Her mom remembered that months earlier she had read an article in Time magazine about a hospital that specialized in medical procedures without transfusions.
Read it, thought, well, you know, they're in the north, maybe they're too big, you know, because sometimes you'll call people and they'll say, okay, we'll get back to you, and never get back to you.
Stacy's mom was concerned that her daughter's case might fall through the cracks in a big hospital near New York City, but time was running out. In tears, Stacy's mom picked up the phone.
They said, stop crying. Okay, stop crying.
That call began their long journey, from their home in Louisiana to Englewood Hospital in a New Jersey suburb outside New York City.
Cassandra, how are you doing?
Nice to meet you. Yes, how are you doing?
Okay.
You're not crying on the phone.
Now you're crying in person.
And that's where they met nurse Sherry Ozawa, who'd been a big source of support to Stacy's family by telephone.
Hi, Stacy. How you doing?
Nurse Ozawa helps run a special program that caters to Jehovah's Witnesses with her colleague, Dr. Frank Forty. It's called Bloodless Medicine and Surgery.
Bloodless surgery is simply treating patients for any particular illness that they have with the intention of avoiding blood transfusions. I'm going to go over this with the nurses.
Dr. Forty would become Stacy's hematologist, her blood doctor.
So you have a kind of catch-22 here. You have a tumor that's ridding her body of blood, but to get the tumor out, you have to risk her life because she won't take a blood transfusion.
That's right.
Many physicians caution that the limits of bloodless surgery are being tested with every new case that comes through the door, particularly high-risk and rare ones like Stacy's. But Dr. Forty defends taking on risky cases.
I don't feel that this is an unwarranted experimentation or a way of treating people that's not fair. Most of the people who say they will not take a transfusion will not change their mind.
Your view is that the patient's desire to avoid a transfusion is paramount to your obligations to save his or her life.
I think so. I think we have to stay within the guidelines of somebody's beliefs.
So you've had patients die whom you think you could have saved with a transfusion.
That's correct.
Would Stacy share that grim fate?
Here you see the tumor, and you see how it's pushing the brainstem all the way to the other side. This is a very, very dangerous situation.
Dr. Abe Steinberger, the neurosurgeon who would try to remove her tumor, stressed that surgery like the one Stacy needed would be perilous for anyone.
A surgery like this can lead to stroke,
Yes,
brain damage,
yes,
paralysis,
yes,
loss of speech,
yes,
death.
yes.
So the danger level couldn't be much higher.
That's correct.
You do hundreds of brain surgeries a year. Is it one of the most difficult cases you've ever taken on?
The total constellation of other factors makes this possibly the most complex case I've seen.
And you've seen a lot of cases.
Yes, I have.
And although the risk of Stacy dying was multiplied immeasurably by her refusing transfusions, the team at Englewood's Bloodless Medicine program was willing to take on the challenge.
If Stacy, as we all hope, comes out of this hole, will it be miraculous?
Well, it depends on what you define as a miracle. Is you define it as a miracle as something that someone else said couldn't be done? In that sense, yes, it would be a miracle.
When we return, Stacy's faith and her doctor's skill are put to the test.
Even if she is dying, and without a blood transfusion she will die, we will not transfuse her. That's why this is such a dangerous operation.
From our studios in Rockefeller Center, here is Stone Phillips.
Returning to our story, a tumor is growing inside 18-year-old Stacy Singletary's brain. But the blood transfusion several doctors had told her she needs is against her religious beliefs. With time running short, she's about to undergo a very risky surgery. Here again is Robert Bazell.
If not, then we'll just...
Finally, Stacy found a team of doctors who had agreed to risk operating on her brain tumor and respect her religious beliefs.
Even if she is dying, and without a blood transfusion she will die, we will not transfuse her. That's why this is such a dangerous operation.
But Stacy's blood count, the measure of her blood's capacity to carry vital oxygen through her body, had dropped again.
We'd love it to be higher. It's not.
It was now well below a level considered compatible with life. Normal is about 14. Stacy's was just above 3.
Well, how low can you go? How could Stacy be walking around close to 3?
The answer is different for everybody, but I'm not trying to evade you because I'll tell you the truth, I'm not sure.
Okay, not bad. 110/60.
Somehow, Stacy's body had adapted. She was hanging on, but not even Dr. Forty was certain how low she could go and still survive.
It's going to be 3 times a day before you eat.
To diminish the danger as much as possible, Dr. Forty prescribed a regimen of vitamins, minerals, and a special drug. If the regimen worked, it would be a short-term solution to temporarily bolster Stacy's blood count so she could have the surgery.
And I'd rather take it from your arm than from your finger.
After 5 days, another test of Stacy's precious blood. She tried drugs to stimulate her blood before, but to no avail. Would Dr. Forty's prescription work now so she could have surgery soon? Or was her blood count still slipping?
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
What would you
how
like to
you
hear today? First things first.
Some good stuff.
All right, the hemoglobin is 5.7.
Is it?
And how much did you come in here with?
3.2.
3.2 or something like that?
5.7 was big news.
How are you feeling?
Dr. Forty's regimen had given Stacy her first blood boost since she'd gotten sick.
So we'll keep pushing to see how far we can go. If things got into trouble, I don't care what the hemoglobin is. I think we would just go ahead and do what we can.
It's still far from the blood count of 10 or more that everyone was hoping for. And as much as they tried, there was still a sense of desperation the family couldn't shake. Stacy had a long way to go. She was still too weak to walk on her own, or to join her parents at a congregation near the hospital to pray that her blood count would continue to rise. And it did, from 5.7 to 5.9, and then 6.3, nearly twice the blood count she had the day she was wheeled into Dr. Forty's office.
They're saying, this is wonderful, this is good, but we're going for as high as we can get.
But the family's optimism faded fast because Stacy's blood count didn't go any higher after that reassuring rise. In fact, it dropped. The doctors had no choice. Even though Stacy's blood count was less than half what it should be, it was now or maybe never. It was time for surgery. The day had come for her to take the risk that so few outside her religion could understand.
Hi.
Dr. Steinberger checked to make sure Stacy hadn't changed her mind.
Okay. We've explained to you the risks, and we just need you to sign it where it says signature of the patient.
But she was steadfast. No transfusions, no matter what. There was no turning back now. Her parents said goodbye, not knowing whether they would see Stacy alive again.
Okay, let's calculate the circulating blood volume.
Inside the operating room, doctors used a combination of technologies to recirculate any blood Stacy lost.
Yeah, we're doing absolutely fine. No problem. We're not losing blood.
Her blood loss was minimal so far, but the surgery turned out to be more complex than Stacy's medical team had anticipated. Nurse Azawa tried to reassure Stacy's parents.
So it's taken them a little longer to get down to where the tumor is. But she's doing fine. Everything's fine.
Then, after hours of continued work,
Dr. Steinberger?
Yes.
finally, doctors would learn for certain whether the tumor was cancer and could spread, or whether it was self-contained and benign. Enough of the tumor was out for a hospital lab to call in a report.
Spindle cell tumor consistent with a cellular meningioma.
Thank you very much. It's a benign tumor. If this is a benign tumor and you can take it all out, you can cure.
Finally, some good news for Stacy's anxious family.
They did pathology already. The tumor's benign. So, thank you, so, if they get it all out, she's cured. So, if we get it all out today or they get it all out later, the good thing is that it's good news. That's happy news.
But back in the operating room, Stacy's brain tumor was still not completely out.
We're taking a lot of it out, but we are losing some blood here.
The medical team continued to work for several more hours until they feared Stacy could lose too much blood, and they could lose her if they went after the rest.
We're going to close.
They'd removed most of the tumor, but now, even though Stacy lived through the surgery, so much could still go wrong.
You can do the best operation and think there will be no problems, but when they wake up, they are very ill neurologically. There is a possibility that she would die or remain in a coma or in a vegetative state or paralyzed, or there are all kinds of horrendous complications that can arise from brain surgery.
All anyone could do was wait and pray. Was Stacy out of the woods?
Stacy, can you hear me? Hi, Stacy. Squeeze my hand. Yes.
These and other tests during the first few days after surgery proved it.
Yeah, you can see. How many fingers do I have up?
Stacy had no brain damage. It was a great relief to her medical team.
She's had a truly remarkable recovery.
That must be awfully satisfying.
It sure is.
The fraction of tumor that remained was removed later in a second surgery. And 3 months afterwards, Dateline visited Stacy's family at their home in Baton Rouge.
So, Stacy, how do you feel?
Well, I feel terrific considering how I've been feeling over the past couple of years. I mean, it seems like I'm back to normal now. I'm driving, and I'm out shopping at the mall, and sometimes I even outshop my mom.
Her blood count is back up to normal, around 14.
Backwards is sort of hard, so.
She's in physical therapy, working on recovering her balance, her strength, and the nearly 40 pounds she lost.
3 sets of 20?
Yes.
Even as she's getting stronger physically, emotionally, she's grappling with the gravity of what she's endured.
Did you think you were going to die?
I don't know. It was something that was really unsure in my mind because there were so many questions about whether or not the surgery could be done. I was prepared to die faithfully because there's nothing that's worth risking my relationship with God.
We thank you for the things that you allow us to provide for ourselves.
Her parents also are confident that the risks were worth it.
If Stacy had died and you hadn't opted for a transfusion, how do you think you would have thought about your decision in hindsight?
It still would have been the correct decision. I know that sounds maybe sort of cold and straightforward, but a decision that is correct no matter what happens.
Sister Singletary.
We see that in Mark chapter 1. A leper came to Jesus and begged him to cure his sickness.
Stacy's life still revolves to a great extent around being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But like most teenagers, she's also striking out on her own, enjoying the independence she'd lost while sick, especially cruising around in the post-operation present from her parents, her first car. She's returning to school.
I'm calling about violin lessons.
Putting her life back together.
Coming that close to being permanently disabled and not really having lived a teenager's life showed me that right now is the time I need to get out and start doing some things that I really want to do.
Hospitals throughout the country are increasingly using blood-saving technologies, even when they don't have dedicated bloodless surgery programs. You can get more information about bloodless medicine from our website. The address is dateline.msnbc.com.
Still ahead, it could make you hot under the collar. A broken air conditioner.